The U.S. Supreme Court last week ruled 5-4 that federal courts could not intervene to stop partisan gerrymandering in states.
Now, that practice draws election district lines to give one party a political advantage over another. But as Politics Now co-host Steve Sebelius explains, the court said it wouldn't fix the problem. Steve?
Well, it turns out in Maryland, Democrats drew lines so that Republicans couldn't get elected. And then out in South Carolina, Republicans drew lines so that Democrats couldn't get elected. In those two separate cases, they finally wound up in the Supreme Court. Justices struck down lower court rulings that found that the plans were unconstitutional. Basically, they said it's somebody else's job to fix the question. Attorney Bradley Schrager has represented the state Democratic Party in redistricting cases before. He says there's no law that makes partisan gerrymandering illegal.
There's nothing expressly in the Constitution or otherwise that would make illegal gerrymandering strictly for partisan purposes, for example, just on the basis of how many Democrats or how many Republicans or even how many independents or other parties live in a particular proposed district. Yeah. So no, there is no sort of clear and express limit to that at the moment.
In some cases, courts have an easier time deciding political maps are unconstitutional. A map with widely different populations can dilute votes, for example, or one that divides a minority community into separate districts so members can't elect a candidate of their choice might also violate the law. But with political affiliation, there's no protection in law, which is why the 5 justices in the majority last week's opinion said they could not identify not only authority for the courts to intervene, but also didn't know what standard to apply if they did intervene. Schrager said the issue becomes a question for state legislatures and ultimately for voters to resolve.
In the end, it's up to the voters, right? If one of the lessons of last week's U.S. Supreme Court opinion is that if you're expecting the courts to remake our political system, if you're expecting the establishment itself to remake our political system, that's a fool's errand. It is up to the people and the voters. No one's going to organize for you for this purpose. If you want to change these things, it starts with organizing and voting to change them yourselves, because ultimately that's where the responsibility is going to lie.
Well, the court's ruling could have a big impact here in Nevada when the 2021 legislature draws new district lines for the state that will last for a decade. Now, last time, Republican Governor Brian Sandoval vetoed a Democratic plan, and the lines were drawn by a panel of special masters appointed by a court. But this time, if the Democrats control both houses of the legislature and the governor's mansion, that plan is probably going to get signed into law.
Interesting.
You always explain it very well, Steve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why they pay me the medium-sized box.